recording in both places. So I'll just do my normal introduction and then we'll just dive in from there. So let me just get all my information here. Okay. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is Todd Brennan. He is a repeat offender. He has been on before, but this time he has brought his better half, his lovely wife, Leslie, who does not yet have a Podiatry Legends t-shirt, and we'll discuss that later. So, guys, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
It is interesting to have a husband and wife team. I have had a husband and wife team on before, Payman and Vidra Ellison in Arizona, and they actually work together, but you guys don't work together.
We do not.
No, we did residency together and then we parted ways.
But you stay together. You just decide to work in different places.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So let's go into the romance side of things. Where did you meet?
School, podiatry school.
Yeah.
She was a year ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is she a year older than you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cougar.
It's very cliche. I was his anatomy.
So you sat back as the new graduates, as the new students were joining, you go, oh yeah, I like that one. That one. I've taken dibs on that one. That one's mine. Everybody else, hands off.
Exactly.
Well, everyone kept talking about this cute new first year student, and I didn't see what the big deal was about him, but he grew on me.
So when you first met, so it was just a mutual, just you meet each other first, and then did it blossom from the start, or was it something that developed after a couple of years?
No,
It was about a year.
Yeah,
probably.
it was, when you're a first year podiatry student, at least at the school we went to in Ohio, the first year students are in groups with second year students for anatomy class to go through like labs as basically tutors.
Yeah.
So her and a couple of classmates were the lead group for my group of first years. And that's kind of how I first met her. And
he was in a terrible group.
yeah.
He needed help desperately.
So yeah. And then, one of my neighbors where I lived was a year above her, and I talked to her about it, just saying about this girl that I saw. She was, in school, and I thought she was cute, didn't know much about her. And little did I know, but it kind of spread like wildfire that I was interested in her. And next thing you know.
Yeah. So I kept hearing all of these rumors that this guy kept creeping on me. And I finally confronted him about it. And then our friendship just blossomed from there, and friendship developed into a relationship.
What I usually say to people, go, oh, I heard there's this rumor going around about such and such, and I should know because I started it. So you might find Todd. Todd may have actually started the rumor.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably gone, oh, there's this rumor out there that I really like this blonde haired chick the year above.
Yeah.
And then the rumors got around, and you just kept fanning the flames and kept keeping it going.
Yeah.
So so as students, a lot of times, when you're a student, you got these bright eyes, bushy tail, you're eager. You knew you had to do your residency. So did you plan to do your residency in the same place? Because I know you're in Florida now.
Yeah.
So did you do your residency in Florida?
So I originally was going to go to Kentucky for residency because that's where I'm from. But I came down here just to have like a beach vacation, if you can say that. And then I actually fell in love with Tampa and with the residency program down here. So I decided to move down here by myself for the first year. And then he did a rotation, like an externship down here. And he ended up really liking the program. But by no means did I think that he was going to be able to come to the residency program, because our boss, he wasn't too keen on the idea of having a couple working together. But Todd has a way of winning people over, and he ended up winning over my boss, and he hired him. So, and then after that, we just decided to stay down here because we both love Florida.
Yeah.
So which podiatry school did you go to?
It was the Ohio College of Podiatric Medicine. Now it's part of Kent State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and you being from Kentucky, that means you're a bourbon drinker?
Oh yeah.
There's nothing better than when you say to a female, "Are you a bourbon drinker?" and they give you that look and go, "Oh yeah." Yeah. I bet that was Todd's opening line. "Are you a bourbon drinker?" And you went, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is the woman for me." So did sorry. Did you get Todd to start drinking bourbon, or was he already a bourbon drinker?
Oh, I got him to start drinking it.
Yeah, I would dabble in it here or there, but
Yeah.
I've appreciated it more. The good bourbon versus bad bourbon and
Yeah.
whatnot. Once we started, dating more, and her dad always brings me a bottle of bourbon down when they come and visit.
Yeah, because in
So,
Kentucky there's bourbon that doesn't leave the state. Like there's special barrels that they don't sell it anywhere else but
Oh,
Kentucky.
right.
So anytime we go to Kentucky or if my dad comes down to visit him, he always gets Todd another bottle of bourbon.
so a full
And
bar.
I did a head count of the bourbon bottles upstairs one day when I was very, very bored during quarantine. And he actually has 69 bottles of bourbon.
69
in
bottles
our
of
bar.
bourbon on the wall. That is
Yeah.
there's a song in that. Yeah, well, it's on my bucket list, but my wife and I, it's on our bucket list to do a Kentucky bourbon tour.
The bourbon
It's
trail.
fantastic.
Yeah, just to go in there because I've got a few bottles of. I've got a Pappy Van Winkles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 21-year-old or 17-year-old Pappy Van Winkles, I think.
Yeah.
It's hard to come by.
It is.
Yeah, I got it for my 50th birthday a few years ago, and a friend of mine we'd been looking at it for ages, and I think it cost her a lot to actually get it. But that's what happens when you have really, really good friends.
Sure, absolutely.
But we've probably got a bit. What's that?
Have you drank it or no?
Yeah, probably. I'm over halfway through it.
Okay.
But I don't drink it very often. It just sits there, and every now and then when I'm feeling special,
Yeah.
or if I have or if the friend who bought it for me is ever over, we always have one.
Gotcha. What's just your go-to bourbon that you like just on a night?
So if we're just having a bourbon and Coke, it would just be a Jim Beam bourbon because it's always readily available. It's about the only bourbon my wife likes drinking. So, but if I'm going to have a sipping bourbon like Basil Hayden's,
that's a good one.
Yes, I've got that. So I've got a number of them, but I actually like some of the American whiskeys are good as well, even though they're not as sweet as a bourbon.
Yeah.
But I picked up a bottle of Arizona whiskey. It was like $13 a bottle at Walmart. So you think this thing's going to be from hell, and it was so nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have had friends over and here, try this, and they've gone, my God, that's good. And so any time we travel anywhere, if there's a distillery or something, I just love doing distillery tours, brewery tours. Yeah, always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got sidetracked on the bourbon, which is
I
don't think there's anything ever wrong.
From Kentucky.
Well, Doc Dockery, I think when I was talking to him, we went on a big tangent of gin because he's a real gin drinker. I think he said he's got 4 bars inside his house.
That's hysterical.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised from his Facebook and his Instagram because he's always got pictures of gin drinks on there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think he has a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
In his house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm ever over that way, I will try and get an invite. So the other reason I wanted to get you on, not only because you're a husband and wife team, and you mentioned before that, so you did residency together. So we did get sidetracked, didn't we? You did your residency together. You finished, you graduated and all that, but you're in private practice, Todd, and Leslie, you are working at the VA hospital.
Yes.
Why the parting of the ways?
So I went into private practice first because I was a year.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Cougar, forgot.
I graduated and then I went into private practice. And then he went into private practice with Dr. Krawitz.
Yeah.
And then one of us was offered to work at the VA by our boss, our residency director. And it was basically who had the worst job of the two of us was going to go to the VA. And Dr. Krawitz definitely had better benefits for Todd, had better incentives.
Mhm.
It was just overall, it was a better lifestyle for Todd. And I didn't want him to leave that. And I really enjoy education component of residency. So I signed on at the VA,
Okay.
which it's turned out to be a really great thing because it's very family friendly for me. They have paid maternity leave, and I have vacation days that I can take off, and I'm able to be with my kids. So, which is important to me. So,
And it's good too, that, like working in two different places. You then at the end of the
yeah,
day, you come home, you go, how was your day? And even though you're doing the same profession, you've
yeah,
got different experiences. It's not, you're in the same place and you both get
yeah.
home and talk about the same receptionist.
I will say though, we did work very well together when we were in residency
Yeah.
together. Yes. So I always loved working with Todd. He would make me laugh every day. There's so many stories I could tell you about the goofy stuff that he did in residency, and you could write a book on it.
Keep it light.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, that was a good segue, wasn't it? You could write a book on that. Todd recently sent me a message and said, oh, can you share this on some of your pages? And together you've written a book called The Footprint Hunt.
Correct.
What is that all about? Well, first, just tell us what the Footprint Hunt is, and then we'll talk about how it sort of came about.
Yeah, it's basically a book of, being in obviously podiatry, we know one of the first things kids find and play with are their feet. And kids also love animals. And so the thought was basically this child's walking home, and along the way, they find footprints of animals that are local here to Florida. And it's rhyming throughout. So there's the animal footprints and the animal that makes the footprint. And then, a way that we thought it would make it stand out and more personalized is at the end of the book is a spot where the parents can put their own children's footprints.
Okay.
So, when they're born, basically they can ink or, paint and put their footprints in the book so that.
It's like a little keepsake.
Yeah.
So the book becomes personal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what animals are in the book?
So we have all different.
Hold up the book. So because we're on video as well. So hold up the book.
So there's all different types. Florida panther.
You have panthers.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Armadillo, pelican, duck. So there's a whole bunch. And then at the end of it, we also actually included a spot for our dog, Tiki, at the very end. But at the end, there's a spot here where the parents can put their footprints, and then the name and the date and the weight and the height and all that. And then we also have a spot right after it for their handprints too.
Okay, cool. So once they get it, they're going to then put it away. And it's not something they're just going to then pass on to somebody else. So somebody else sees the idea and they go, I need to get a copy of that book.
Right. So part of the hope was, when we had our second child at the hospital, they give you a little piece of paper that has the kids' footprints and their name, date of birth, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I could somehow get this into the hospital, so instead of basically giving a piece of paper that people may lose, maybe the hospital be willing to purchase the book, give them a book, and that way the parents have it as a keepsake, but they can also have something to read to the children as they get older too.
Yeah.
So is the book like sponsored by your podiatry business, or it's written by you two as this is a book, this is our brainchild?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you can get it everywhere at the moment?
It's on Amazon, yeah.
Oh, if it's on Amazon, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
$7.99 maybe? Yeah, $7.99 US dollars.
So very reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one of those things people could order. Can people order it directly from you if they wanted to order bulk copies, if they say wanted to put them in their podiatry clinic?
No, you still order from Amazon. I talked to the publisher, and that's still the easiest way to do it. You order from Amazon, and basically Amazon prints it based on how many you order.
Okay.
So
I'm still trying to get over that you have panthers in Florida.
Yeah, I know.
Are there many? Are there many panthers in Florida?
No, they're not super common, but they exist.
Yeah.
Not as much probably in the Tampa area, but South Florida.
Yeah, I came across a bobcat in Arizona having a fight with a rattlesnake.
Oof. Yeah, we have bobcats here too.
Yeah, we have a lot of bobcats.
Yeah, we were sort of just walking through the desert with a friend, and I said, "Oh, rattlesnake." And he's going, "How the hell can you pick a rattlesnake? We're about 100 feet away." I said, "I don't know, you can just see it." So we get up there, and as I got closer, because I ran ahead, because I was pretty excited, And then all of a sudden I stopped. He says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Oh, there's a big cat looking at me." and he stopped way back before me. He said, "Is it a mountain lion?" I went, no, it's smaller than a mountain lion. He goes, "Okay." So then he came up and he said, "Oh, bobcat. That still don't play with the cat." And but I got some good photos of it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he said if it was a mountain lion, he said, yeah, that wouldn't have been good at all. He said they're a different beast altogether.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So with the book, was this whose original idea was it to do the book?
Todd's.
Yeah, it was. So we read every night to our girls, before they go to bed.
Yeah.
And some of them I read, I'm just like, we can do this. Like there's very simplistic stories.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the thought process started. And it was kind of during the beginning of, the whole COVID outbreak. And, our minds started going. And then, we started to put it together. And the footprint thing was kind of the mainstay because of what we do for a living. And we thought, well, how can we incorporate that with animals? And this just kind of slowly came around, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So who did the illustrations?
So there's actually a girl here in Tampa. Her name is Alexandra Tenney, and she, a friend of mine actually connected me to her, and I reached out and said, "Hey, we're looking to do a book. Are you interested in illustrating it?" And she said, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
She always wanted to do a children's book.
She did a great job.
She did,
and she was very attentive to all of our requests
details,
because we were trying to make sure that all the minute details were taken care of.
Yeah,
because we're like that.
Right.
And she was very patient with us when it came to the font, the colors, the everything. Yeah.
So did you work with a publisher in the process of doing this, or what was the process you went to? You decided, I'm going to write this book, and you found an illustrator, which if you can give me her details, I'll put that in the show notes. So if anyone wants to connect with her in any way.
Yeah. So, when I first started, I was, reading online and learning how to do the publishing thing, and reached out to this guy, and he basically said, you can do self-publishing or you can go through a publishing company.
Yeah.
So the publishing company is easier because they do all the marketing and whatnot for you, whereas self-publishing is harder because you have to do your own publishing, but you own all the rights to it.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a couple of publishing companies, sent them, a letter, and kind of got denied a couple times. And then a girl at work actually told me about a friend of hers who had a friend that owned basically it's called Telemachus Press. And basically they let you self-publish. You pay them a small fee to publish it, and you own all the rights. They basically just make your dream happen of a book. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it. And from talking to this other guy, basically he'd written a couple books. And by the time he got to his second or third book, another big publishing company saw it and then bought the rights.
Yeah.
So that's how he got bigger. So that's kind of
I have heard that happening. You self-publish first. I think I could be wrong, and I have been known to be, but J.K. Rowling's with Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something she initially, it was someone like her, it was someone who's pretty big, where they initially just published the book themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And after it started selling a couple of thousand copies because people were liking the stories, then a big publisher picked it up and it just went from there. So if somebody's listening to this and I'm completely wrong, I apologize in advance. Don't send me an email. I don't want it. So was it an expensive process to go through?
It wasn't as expensive as we expected it to be.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the illustrator was around a little over $1,000 for all of the pictures.
That's good.
The cover, everything, and obviously we own the rights to those. And then the publishing was a little over $2,000 for everything. So
okay, that's not too bad.
They basically get it all up on Amazon. I didn't have to pay. It was all inclusive of the price. And now it's available on Amazon. Pretty much that's it.
Yeah, and our hope is that if we can produce a couple of different books, not just Florida, and do something throughout
kind of
the
regional.
United States, or even international.
Australia, do an Australian book. We've got so many weird animals over here. None that will eat you when you just going for
interesting footprints.
There's heaps that'll kill you, but not many that will eat you.
Yeah. So that would be the hope, is if it takes off and it's successful, doing more books in the series for different regions or different parts of the world that have different animals, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you could really take this and really go with it and make it a big series of children's books.
Mm-hmm. especially if you can get into the hospitals, because,
Yeah.
just hand them out.
It is one of those things, though, that it's I like the idea that it's been done by podiatrists. It wasn't somebody else that came up with it, and we're looking, going, oh, geez, wish podiatrists had done that. You've actually done it. So the publisher you went through, what was their name again?
Telemachus, Telemacus. I can send you the information for them as well.
Yeah, I think anything we can put in as a link, because I know there's a lot of podiatrists that want to write books, whether it's just a short book just for their patients, whether it's somebody that want to get a little bit more detailed, where they want to write business books. So like I've done 2, which are sitting there in the corner. And when you start getting over 45,000 words, it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's the same process. It's really the same process of the publisher, the cover, the design, and getting it onto Amazon. But I've seen some people that have done it very much on the cheap, and you can tell by the finished product of the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what did it feel like? Because I've had some people say, oh, just do a digital book. Don't worry about getting it printed. But I think there's nothing better than what I call thud factor.
Oh, yeah.
The book turns up and you drop it on your desk, and it just makes that sound effects. It makes that noise when you actually throw it down.
Right.
So what did that feel like when you first got the book in your hand?
Well, when we first got it, we were super excited to show it to our daughter, who is 2.5.
Yeah.
And she looked at it and just went on to watching something else. Like, she had zero interest in it. And Mommy and Daddy were so excited to show it to her, thinking that she would be excited too. But once we started actually showing her the book, then she started drawing more interest into it. But it was just, we were very excited about it. And it was just like, she was like, whatever.
Yeah. And what was even funnier, so I had to we have a big family Amazon account for Prime, my parents, my brother, and everything. And so I had to create a separate Amazon account just strictly for this, so I could manage things. So I created the account, and then the book came out and went live, and everybody was buying it and receiving it. It took me like 2 weeks to get my copies because I didn't have Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting. Everybody, family and friends who bought the book are getting their book and sending me pictures. And I'm like, I still haven't even received mine yet.
Yeah.
So, and what did you mean by you set up your own Amazon account differently? What did you mean?
There's a part of Amazon called Kindle Direct Publishing that you sign up for, and it's linked to Amazon. So it puts the book on Kindle and ebooks and stuff, but it also gives you your own Amazon account.
Yeah, it's like an account specifically for authors.
It is. And it's just like, any Amazon account anybody has, but there's that dimension to it for authors as well. So I can go on and see how many books have sold and stuff like that. And, but I didn't want to pay for Prime because I already had Prime through our family Amazon account. So I thought, whatever, I'll just have it.
So we were the last to get our book.
So, but yeah, it's pretty neat.
So you know that next you want to do more books in other areas. So are you also, you'd have these in your clinics as well for patients?
So actually, like I said, I just received I ordered 10 because I want to take them to like you said, the offices and kind of put them up there for the patients. But yeah, I'm going to kind of, show them up there, our YouTube that we had talked about when I was on last time with Leo, I'm going to probably do a little thing on YouTube. And that's why I went the self-publishing route, is because I thought, from a marketing standpoint, we kind of have that marketability already through the office. So I was willing to give it a whirl.
But it's a niche market. Like you, pretty much anyone could have this book though. Like any person could read the book, but talking to podiatrists, like coming on this podcast, and if you can get on other podcasts and that as well, and promote it through that and different Facebook pages and letting the podiatrists know it's there. I think that's a great way of actually getting out to the general public.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And especially like our pediatrician, we are going to give her a copy, and hopefully, she helps kind of promote the book with us because she's a friend of ours too. So there's a lot of different ways that we can promote it without, spending money on marketing and doing all of that the expensive way. So.
Yeah. I mean, the initial thought of the book was more so something fun and cool to do for our girls.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to make a ton of money, but it's like at this point, You know, if it makes a lot of money, awesome. If it doesn't, it was still something cool that we did for our kids.
Yeah,
Okay, so to go back a step, so Todd originally came up with the idea, Leslie.
he did. Yes.
So when he came to you and said, "I have this idea for this children's book," did he just flutter his eyes at you and you went, "Yes, that sounds like a great idea," or did you take a little bit of convincing to get on board with the
Well,
process?
yeah. So when he thought about the book, I think I was probably at that point 6 months pregnant. And that was
Okay.
the last thing that I gave a shit about. And
Oh, did you say shit? Now I've got to put E on
I'm
the
sorry,
episode.
I'm sorry.
No, so
Um,
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
Every second episode, somebody says it.
Okay. So yeah, like I really didn't have any interest in the book, but he kept pushing it and pushing it. And then the quarantine happened. So at that point, we were both like, we're bored anyways. Let's try and pursue it and see what happens. And he was really diligent about sharing his networking and, you know, trying to figure out different avenues of getting it published and how to go about it, basically. So I would say probably 70% of the book was him.
And, you know, I do have to give a special recognition to my mom, because my mom
Yeah.
did help with some of the rhyming stuff. She's really
Yeah.
good at rhyming words. So if there
You
was a
sit there
part
and
that we
think,
were
how
stuck
do you,
with,
how do you rhyme something with armadillo? You
Right.
know?
Oh, fluffy pillow.
Yeah, exactly, right? So
Yeah.
there were a lot of nights that we were just sitting there, like rhyming words back and forth to each other, trying to figure out how to rhyme with these crazy animals. But
right?
So did you ever crack open a bottle of wine to try and come up with the best rhyme?
I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, not you, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, I would occasionally. I don't drink wine, but whiskey every once in
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
I'd pour a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'd still would draw blanks, and it would just be like, all right, we're done for the night. We're
But it
not
was
getting
kind of,
anywhere.
yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So what was the process from Todd, from you going, "Oh, I'm going to do this"? Like, you can have an idea. So for
Right.
example, when I wrote my book, I was saying I was going to write a book for 10 years before
Sure.
I sat down and said, no, now I'm going to actually do it. And there was it was
Right.
4 a.m. to 7 a.m., 7 days a week for
Mhm.
6 months of writing, actually, is what the guts of it was. Then it was another 6 months editing. So it took about a year.
Sure.
What was the process when we went, yep, we're going to do this, to actually getting it published? Time frame?
It definitely took. It's probably been close to a year. I mean, it's pretty much been almost the entire COVID thing. And, you know, I did the same that you do, even probably a little longer than a year, because I sat and was like, oh, I want to do a kid's book. And then I get excited and then it'll kind of phase off and come back.
Yeah.
And finally I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. You know, the days at the clinic were super dead because nobody was coming in because of COVID. And I was like, I'm going to do it. You know, and I started doing research, finding animals. I picked a group of animals that were, you know, local here in Florida, got their footprints together. And then from there started putting some words together and sat down and knocked it out. And then once I liked the way it flowed, then we started reaching out and saying, all right, well, what publishers do we reach out to? And then kind of went from there.
I think a lot of the delay was that I'm very particular about things, and if something didn't rhyme well, or if I felt like it was too broken of a
Yeah.
rhyme, I would just sit there literally for one animal all night trying to figure out how to make it
Or
flow better.
So talking about rhyming, can you read the first 2 pages?
Yeah.
Just so people get the idea. Like, is it like, like Dr. Zeus was
Right.
was a bit rhymey.
So the first one, our sweet baby is walking home, but look, our baby's not alone. Who is running in the clear? Don't be scared, it's just a deer.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of looks like that.
And there's
right?
the deer. Don't be scared. Okay, yeah. That's
So-
pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of that same format throughout.
But we learned a lot. We had someone edit our book, which you think, you know, it's a children's book. How difficult can editing a children's book be? But
Yeah.
it was actually really, it was really interesting, because in order for a children's book to flow well, for it to be easy for the reader, you have to write in a certain like pentamic, and it's you can't go off of, like, your rhyme can't be too long on one page and then it be really short on the other, because it just doesn't flow well off the off the lip.
So is this flowing well for the parent to be reading it, or flowing well for the child to follow and then start reading it themselves later?
It's more so for the parent to read.
Yeah.
But in order for the parent to be able to read it and the child to understand it, you can't have a lot of broken up rhymes. Some that are really long, and then others that are very short, because it's harder for a child to understand rhymes that aren't equally sounding in like rhythm. And it was something that the editor told us,
Right.
and it made sense because we went back and looked at a bunch of children's books, and she was right. They all had a certain flow to the rhythm of the book, and you really have to heed to that style.
Right.
So can you remember off the top of your head a rhyme that you put together that the editor went, no, that's no good?
No, I mean, 'cause we basically, it was most of them. The flow was okay, but we'd have to add some descriptive words here or there just to like lengthen the sentence a little bit, or shorten it, taking something out. But I think the guts of it and the bones of it, for the most part, the flow is actually, pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Is it like putting brown bear instead of just bear?
Yeah. Exactly.
More descriptive words so when the child's hearing it, they're actually putting more of description in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Like for this page, it was what makes footprints in the muck. We originally had quack, quack, it's a duck. And it just felt like it stopped too soon from the first page. So we added, it's a yellow duck.
Yeah.
And that gave it a little bit more length to it, so that the flow made more sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Instead of quack, quack, it's a duck, quack, quack, it's a yellow duck. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't feel as an abrupt ending, if you will.
Yeah.
So there, but I still picture too, the kid, maybe I picture it where the child may be lying there in bed, maybe looking at the pages, but if they're not, they're just listening to it, putting that descriptive word on there gives them a clearer picture of what it is that they're actually listening to.
Yeah. And especially having a toddler right now, using description is very important when you're talking about animals and footprints, even, because they rely on those descriptions to understand what the word is.
Right.
And that was something else that we learned through the editor.
Right. And even just pointing to the animals, just getting, what is this? Duck. What is this? Bear. Like just seeing our daughter, recognize the animals and being able to make sense of them is cool too.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got 2 children then?
2, yeah.
Yeah, because I was just working at the age when you said you were pregnant at the time, so you didn't care.
Oh, yeah.
I know your exact words were, I didn't give a shit.
Right.
And then he kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and then I finally said, all right, let's do it. So
I think it's great. I think I've heard of, like I said, so many people that have wanted to write books, whether it's a children's book, just a novel, a business book, or whatever it is. But anytime I meet someone who's actually done it, and you, like you said, you might look at a kid's book and go, oh, how much editing is there?
Right.
But it's the process of going through it. And I think when you pop out the other end with the book complete, it's really rewarding. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. It's just to see your name on something that's being sold around the world, conceivably, is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's listening to this, and before we wrap up, what's a final tip you get to anyone who may be listening to this and thinking, I might actually do this? Do you have any advice for them other than don't do it? No, I'm just.
No, I think it's just like, just do it. If it comes to your mind and it's something that keeps coming up, and you keep thinking, I want to write a book, or anything really, from that matter, life in general, I think it's worth, going after it and doing it. Worst case scenario is you spend a little money on a book and it doesn't sell, but it's still that keepsake and that memory, which is neat.
Yeah, I think going through the whole thing, you should focus on one task at a time. Like just saying, I'm going to write a book is very overwhelming. But focusing on one task at a time, like, what do you want the book to be about? How do you want the rhymes to go? What animals do you want to have in it? And you can slowly start to build those blocks. And before you know it, you have a book.
And I think a lot of podiatrists are quite creative. in certain ways. There's so many that I know that play musical instruments and got art backgrounds. So I think we do have creative minds. We just sometimes forget that we do.
Right.
And even my own daughter, I used to tell her bedtime stories, from the time she was really little all the way through about this certain time of my life, from about, I don't know, 10 to 14. And just tell all these really funny stories. And one day she actually said to me, can you write these all down, or can you write a book, do something? She said, because when you die, they're all gone. I'm like, well, I'm not planning on going straight away. I went, yeah, but if you did, all these stories are gone. And it is like listening to you talk now has just inspired me a little bit. So thank you to actually pull my finger out and actually start putting some of this stuff on paper.
Yeah, it's true. And like you said, it's fun. Same thing with your books. Once you get that book and you see your name on it, it's pretty neat. You know,
it is pretty cool until you get a critic.
Yeah, exactly.
Who gives you 1 star and you go,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who hides in the shadows with ABC 1497,
Right.
but then we'll use my name and go, oh, Tyson's book sucks. And you go, oh, that hurt for about 15 seconds, and then I realized.
Right, exactly.
You got it. Yep, they're out there. So, Leslie, Todd, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast, telling us a little bit about your book. I will put links absolutely everywhere. And even before this episode comes out, I will be dropping it on the different pages that I have, just so people can find out more about it and order a couple of copies.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, let's go.